Hey, sixth graders. How's it going? It's kind of rainy these last few days, so I understand if it's been a little harder to keep our energy up. But I wanted to do this quick video about our Earth, Moon, and Sun unit to help people who maybe are kind of mentally struggling with some of the concepts. So I've got the packet here that we're going to look at. I've also got the sim part 2 that we're going to look at. And then I have the sim available. Let's make my screen bigger so you can see it all. I have the sim available in Amplify that we're going to look at. All right. So let's go back and look at the packet to start with. Okay. So phases of the moon. So if you've worked your way through the packet, you've had the opportunity to think about what's going on with the moon, what are we seeing from Earth. Last week we talked, or before break, we talked about what gives light to the moon. There's this reading that hopefully will help you explain and understand the phases of the moon. One of the questions from the check-in talked about the sunlight, and while the answer of very fast is one way that light is described as moving, it's not very scientific. So sunlight moves in a straight line was what we were looking for. This article helps you to think about if you're looking at the moon from the Earth, what are you seeing and why? Quarter, gibbous, full, and then opportunity to reflect on the article. All right, so down here in the next, today and in the next lesson, you're going to be looking at the phases of the moon from different perspectives, and you're going to be trying to figure out what goes with what, meaning what position in the sky, where in the orbit, right here, if this is the Earth, here's our moon, and here's the sunlight coming from over here. And this circle is the orbit of the moon. Where is the moon on its orbit when you're seeing the different phases? So that's one of the big things that you're working on this week. And so there's some writing to help you reflect. There's some sim activities to help you figure out what's going on with the moon and its appearance. There's opportunities for you to think about evidence. We want to still remember our claim evidence reasoning skills. And then there's another article that you'll be reading about gravity in the solar system and how that impacts what's going on with the Earth and the moon. Opportunities to reflect on that. And then there's this activity that you get to do that's sort of hands-on. I just wanted to take a minute to explain it. So if you didn't print out this whole packet, that's fine, but you might want to see if you can select this page 13 and print it out so you can cut it up because it might make it easier for you. The other thing you could do is just take a piece of paper and you could just draw. You could just draw all the phases of the moon and where they are in the orbit. Okay, so here's the summary of the packet, making sure you know the key concepts. But I just wanted to say take a minute to say what the top view versus the Earth view would be. So if you are like up in the air above and you're looking down at the Earth and its orbit, then what you would see would be the top view cards. And to be totally transparent, I'm not exactly sure what the benefit of understanding the top view cards would be compared to the Earth view cards. I think the Earth view cards is much more relevant, so I would recommend if you only have so much time and brain space to focus on this, because this is what you actually see from Earth. The top view cards, I think, are just to kind of help you understand that the light from the sun is shining on the moon pretty evenly, but what our view is depends on the position of the moon in orbit. So I think that's the goal of the top view cards versus the Earth cards. So my recommendation is either you cut these moon circles out and then you put them on this little chart here. Here's the Earth, and then you would put what you see, kind of match it up all the way around. So the view from the Earth would be what the moon really looks like. All right, so hopefully that helps explain what this activity is about. All right, so that's it with this packet. Now we're going to take a quick look at the sim packet. Okay, this is where you get to play around with the sim and just some opportunities for you to share your thinking. And the quiz time is really just you checking your understanding. So you make a prediction and then you see, did you get it right? This part 3, this was a little bit tricky for my brain, so I just wanted to take a minute to go over it with you. Move the moon to create the phase described in each question below. Investigate the top view and imagine you are an astronaut standing on the moon and looking back at Earth. I was like, wait, what? How would I see the moon if I'm looking at Earth? If I'm standing on the moon, I could look down and see the ground, but I couldn't see the phases of the moon, right? Exactly. So if you are on the moon and looking at the Earth is suddenly now like going to have phases like the moon does because the sunlight is going to hit it. So that's what you're supposed to be thinking about. It's a kind of a brain twister. So you're standing on the moon looking up at the Earth as it's going by, or as you're going by because you're orbiting. And what are you seeing? So that's what you're supposed to be trying to figure out for that. It would be helpful to draw it if you are struggling to figure it out from the sim. This is a tricky one. Okay, and then the rest of it is just helping you process the time period that it takes for the moon to go through all of its phases. Okay, I'm just going to quickly go through some of the sim functions in case anybody is struggling. So down at the bottom, it talks about the month and the day, and you can see that you can move this back and forth to specific days and months, and that will tell you what's going on here with your Earth view. So if you're on the Earth, looking up over here, this is what you're seeing. And then over here to the top view, this is if you're like magically hovering in space, or if you have a spaceship and you're up in space and you're looking down on the Earth and the moon, and we're noticing that the sunlight is over here. All right, so that's what this view is. And you can also drag the moon around this way. And you can drag it both directions, but if you'll notice, there's one direction that advances time in the correct way, but if you're going the wrong way, then you're going to go back in time, which would be fun and cool and awesome, but not something that we really do. Up here, we have the ability to turn the camera off and on. So if you just want one view, you can do that. Camera off and on, sunlight off and on. Not a lot of excitement if you turn the light off, right? What do we see? We see nothing. We see just darkness. So if you want to see the view of the moon and the phases, you got to have the sunlight on. Model not to scale. What does the model to scale look like? Ooh, it's really hard to see everything. So it's easier if you turn it back on to scale. And then you can also just let it play and run through. If you don't want to manually scroll around, you can just kind of see what's happening over time. All right. Hopefully that gives you all the information that you will need to complete the packet, and then I can stop here. I can pause it. And then down here it talks about what the shape of the moon is, if it's waxing or waning. All right? So hopefully you have all the tools that you need. Again, you can always email me, message me in Schoology if you have more questions. All right? I'll see you guys on Friday.